Hello and welcome back to Assetto Corsa. Thank you very much for joining me in today's video. I am here with the Ferrari F2007 at the Jeddah circuit in Saudi Arabia. And today I'm going to be talking about the shambles that was the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I'm going to talk a little bit about the track and what I think of it, the good and the bad. I'm then going to talk about the weekend as a whole, and then I'm going to go into a little bit more about the F1 race itself, the incidents that happened, the FIA's response, my thoughts on all the incidents that I can remember, and also on my opinions on the FIA and consistency in general over the season and what's happened and who's right and who's wrong, and yeah, okay, I think maybe some of this may not be, I think some people are going to debate some of the things I have to say. Of course, everything that you say online when it comes to something like this is going to be opinionated, and it is going to be somewhat controversial at times. Hopefully people understand my point of view, and I welcome discussion in the comments box. I may not be able to respond to everything, but I do welcome the discussion. So if you want to know what my thoughts were on this Grand Prix and everything that happened in it, and what might happen going forward in the next few days, stay tuned. Right, so I've got the Ferrari F2007 because I thought it might just look nice under the lights. So that's the reason I've got this. I should have perhaps picked the brighter colour instead of this colour, but that's okay. Not a big deal, not a big deal at all. And let's see if I can make my way around this track. It's going to be an interesting one for sure. Right, so let's spend the first couple of laps perhaps talking a little bit about the track itself and what I think of the track. As you can see, this track is a high-flowing, high-speed track. I think it's quite obvious that just from this, and if you obviously, I'm guessing most people did watch the Grand Prix that are watching this video. It is a high-speed track. It's got cambered corners like this. This is actually quite a nice corner. It's also got fast sections like this into chicanes like this that slow you right down. DRS zones, which obviously this car does not have DRS, but we have some DRS zones like this. This is one of the DRS zones, so there were 3 altogether. Lots of chicanes that, you know, slow you down, but not. Some of the chicanes do not slow you down much. So turn 1 chicane is quite a slow one, and then the rest of the chicanes are fairly fast. And the problem I have had with this track is that it felt like the cars were what's the right term for this? I think just too grippy for the track, I think is the correct term. So aside from a few of these corners, a Formula 1 car could take a lot of these corners flat, which is just a little bit strange. I find it strange that an F1 car can take a lot of these corners flat out. So even this section here, which obviously the F2007 is going to struggle with a little bit more than a modern car with all its downforce, but this was flat. You hit the brakes and then flat once again for the corner. This was obviously a corner that wasn't flat. Makes sense. Do not want to go up on that curb. Then this wasn't flat either. Ooh, okay. Very easy to hit the wall there. And yeah, as for the flow of the circuit was nice. I did like the flow. I just think that the corners were a little too easy for modern Formula 1 cars. So maybe they've designed this with 2022 in mind, but I thought they were building another circuit. I cannot remember now off the top of my head whether Saudi Arabia was building another circuit instead of this one. In which case, why? What are we going to do with this one then? So I'm not entirely certain as to what's going on there. But yes, so that was the flow of the track and what's I thought in terms of design. Now, in terms of the environment around the track, that was a whole different problem, because with the environment around the track as it was, wrong side, I'm not used to the track. I realised at that point in time that I was about to crash. I have no idea how my car just did that. Okay, also, I have traction control on. That's not it. How do I switch my traction control? That's brake bias, engine brake, engine brake. Didn't know this car had the engine brake option. Okay. I do have traction control. I'm just trying to figure out how to switch it off. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's ABS is not there. There we go. Right, so that's the least level of traction control. Gives me a bit more to get to drive this car and understand this track with this car. Right, as I was saying, the environment around the track, the walls, dangerous. Lots of blind corners led to quite a few near misses. I just think that they were unnecessary. The walls were unnecessary going into some of these sections. You know what they should have done? They should have widened it up and put gravel traps. Job done. That way you can see what's coming. You've got a clear idea and can see what's coming. And so for this hairpin, it's fine. Down this front straight, it's fine. I'll show you where I think that it was not a good idea to have walls. Turn 1 here shouldn't have a wall just on the inside there. Should be open just so you can see what's happening just past the apex. Over here again, gravel traps. Oh dear. Even here, this was flat out. You needed to be able to see. This area is fine. This is fine. A wall on the inside there is fine. This area is fine. Not too much of a problem here. It's nice and open, easy to see. This corner again, not a problem at all with the walls and the banking. Quite well done. This here should have been a little bit more open. Again, very difficult to see things here. That should be an open. You should have gravel on the inside of that corner so you can see. Once again here, your flat out is blind. This corner definitely needed to be more open. So does this one. And then open up this here so that you can see where your exit is and if there are any slow cars there. That's where they needed to open this up, because those are the sections I think were unnecessarily dangerous on this track. This was an unnecessarily dangerous track. That's my opinion of the track. So, that's the track opinion over. Now let's talk about the race and the weekend. I'm going to start with the FIA, and I want to make comments about the FIA here and the stewarding, because the stewarding was nothing short of laughable this weekend. It was just pathetic all through the weekend. I've never seen such decisions being made that are so delayed or incorrect or just flat out confusing. I've never heard of communication being so poor. And also, I'm not going to completely put this on the FIA. I'm not going to completely put this on what happened with the stewards. Teams as well were not exactly on the board. Mercedes certainly were not. Twice they were involved in, twice or three times over the weekend, they were involved in incidents where they failed to tell Lewis Hamilton, what was happening around him, which is just poor, really, really poor. So we'll get on to that in a moment or so. Let's talk about the race. And there was a lot to digest, so I'll try and keep this as concise as possible. Oh dear. Let's not Verstappen it into the wall. Right, so we'll start with the start of the race. Start of the race, the Mercedes gets a brilliant start. Verstappen gets a good start. Mercedes gets a brilliant start. Game over in that sense for Verstappen. He's not going to be able to catch them. This is not a track, by the way, that lends itself to overtaking too much, so there is that as well. There just doesn't seem to be much in the way of overtaking opportunities throughout the whole circuit. So, but there are a few tracks like that. Sorry, just have to negotiate this whilst I still do not know it. So, right, Mercedes are 1-2, Verstappen's 3rd, I think Charles Leclerc was 4th, Sergio Perez was 5th, had a near miss with Max Verstappen at turn 1 where he almost went to the back of him. That would have been awkward. Ooh, that was bad. That was really bad. It's a good thing this is a simulator. Yes, that would have been awkward had Perez gone into the back of Verstappen at turn 1. But he did not, and therefore they continued on as it was, not a problem. It seemed like there was no real way of overtaking. Mercedes were controlling the pace, and Bottas was backing Verstappen up a little, I think, which is well within the law. You're allowed to do that. Then came Mick Schumacher's crash, which I believe was in the exact same place as Charles Leclerc's crash, and that eventually brought out a red flag. But let's talk about what's happened before that. So that brought out a yellow flag, then a double yellow flag, a safety car. At that point, this is where the first of the big FIA mistakes or stewarding mistakes happened. This race weekend. What is this? It looks like tarmac. It drives like gravel. Okay, that was weird. One of the first mistakes of the race. There were some mistakes before in the feature race and everything like that for F2 and some of that stuff. So there was a mess up there. But Mick Schumacher's crashed in the same place as Charles Leclerc. It's a pretty bad accident. Thankfully he's not hurt or anything, but because, you know, whoa. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. He's not hurt, which is great. Or it's probably a little winded, but the barriers did their job. They had like multiple layers of barriers, so that was really, really good. Very impressive for them to do that. Obviously they knew that could be a position where you could have an accident, so that makes perfect sense. Well done to the designers, and well done to the marshalling team and whoever set up, you know, who set the whole thing up to ensure that was in the right place, all the track stewards and whoever it was. So that was really great. So a safety car comes out. Now immediately we're into controversial territory now. First of all, I think that should have been red flagged. I think a lot of people thought that should have been red flagged because it looked like an incident that was deserving of a red flag. You weren't going to be able to clean that car quickly. You weren't going to be able to get it off track quickly. It was in a place where it would be a firing line of you know, other drivers as they were coming around. So it wasn't okay. This mod is a little bit weird, but okay. So it was in the firing line, and you know, you had to get that car off track before you could do anything else. It needed to be red flagged. But no, the stewards and the FIA and whoever makes the decision, Michael Massey, decided that no, a yellow flag with a safety car is sufficient. Slow everybody down, bunch them up, job done. here comes a controversy now. So the FIA controversy number 1 is done. Bad move on their part. Mercedes need to double stack. Now, they're 1 and 2. If they need to double stack, they need to try and build themselves a bit of a gap to ensure they can double stack successfully, especially with the new pit stops that are now slower because it's not automated. There's more of a human element on the release of the light and everything. So they get Valtteri Bottas to back up. That's illegal. Under a safety car, you cannot do that. There is a minimum, there is a delta that you must stick to, and I think there's even how many car lengths you have. I think once you've caught up to the pack or something, and there is a delta that you're supposed to stick to, of which Bottas was not in the slightest. So he was backing Verstappen up massively. Now this is causing Verstappen, this is obviously costing him time under the safety car, but it's illegal. You're not allowed to do such a thing. So even if Mercedes had a bad stop, let's say they all went in, Mercedes had a bad stop, Verstappen had a good stop with Red Bull, and I mean Mercedes had a bad stop with Hamilton, what would happen is that there was no chance for Verstappen to overtake in the pits. They had nullified that by getting Bottas to slow down way too much. Okay, so that's the... Whoa. I feel like these walls are not... The barriers are not where I think they are. I think they're slightly closer than... I think the barriers are closer than I think they are. The invisible walls are collision boxes for it. Anyway. So, you'd think Bottas would get a penalty for this. No. Wasn't even looked at. Not even noted. And Verstappen was aggrieved, and rightly so. I think that it was right that what he was saying in this instance, that what's going on here, he can't do that. Wasn't looked at all. Anyway, the Mercedes double stack. Verstappen stays out. Red Bull tell him to stay out. So now they're in the lead. So we have Max Verstappen in the lead, Hamilton second, Bottas third. Okay. Then the red flag comes out. Way too late, but the red flag then comes out. So now Mercedes are annoyed because Verstappen is now in the lead. He's taken the lead. He's now going to be able to he's going to be able to change his tyres and starts from pole position. Not exactly the plan. Of course, that's the luck of the draw. If we go back to Imola this year, in Imola, Hamilton was, I think, a lap down, and then the red flag happened with Russell and Bottas crashing, and he managed to unlap himself and everything and came second in the end. So, you know, what goes around comes around, I suppose, in that sense. He had the advantage of it in Imola, a massive advantage. Red Bull had an advantage here, albeit a lot smaller, but they managed to capitalise on the situation. The point here I want to make is that the red flag should have been thrown immediately, regardless. So I think that the FIA have made a hash of that, and then they realised and went, oh, okay, maybe we should red flag this. Red Bull have the advantage, fine. And I'm sure a lot of people online were absolutely, extremely annoyed, thinking that this is some sort of conspiracy where the FIA are trying to give Red Bull the championship, and you know, whatever it is. I'll leave those conspiracies out the window. I'm not going to talk about those conspiracies in this video or anything like that. So we've got to this point where Verstappen's now in the lead, and we're about to do a race restart. Great, let's go ahead for the race restart. Lined up on the grid, standing starts, which I like this idea of standing starts, as opposed to rolling starts. The standing starts are much better, I think. And it begins, and Hamilton gets a blisteringly good start. Like, that's probably one of the best starts he has had in this year. Absolutely pinpoint precision for his start. However, Max Verstappen decides to take matters into his own hands and decides that he misses the corner because Hamilton's got it, and then comes out in the lead somehow. That's not cricket. That's certainly not acceptable. So that's an illegal overtake straight away. Now, in doing so, he also ends up blocking Hamilton, which then means Esteban Ocon manages to make his way into second. I cannot remember where Esteban Ocon was in all of this, but I think he hadn't pitted, so he was one that he gained from all of this, whilst people like Norris and Perez and they all lost out. So Ocon's now got himself into second place somehow. Hamilton is third. Verstappen is in the lead illegally. Again, I don't like. They need to sort out whatever this gravel thing is. In the mod, it needs to be turned back to some sort of a high grip tarmac or something. So naturally, what should happen is Verstappen should have to give that place back to Hamilton. But now there is an Alpine in the way. That's going to make things a little bit more tricky. In my opinion, at that point, well, tough. Verstappen's messed up there. He has to give the place back to Hamilton. If there's an Alpine in the way, it's that's not the Alpine's fault. He should have to give way to both the Alpine and Hamilton. Hamilton hadn't driven unduly slowly to get more cars in the way. He was literally blocked by Verstappen. So that isn't something that should have been considered. However, we didn't even get to that because the dangers of the track that I mentioned earlier led to the crash that I was expecting to happen at some point over the course of the weekend. So that crash, or the course of the race should I say, that crash involved Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, and then the chain reaction of it also involved, there was another driver in that as well, I'm not sure who, and then the chain reaction of it involved Nikita Mazepin and George Russell. By the way, Nikita Mazepin this weekend involved in 2 incidents, neither of them his fault that I could see. The second one, which knocked him out of the race, with George Russell, there's nothing he could do. It was so narrow, there was just no way he was going to be able to avoid Russell, and he just went straight into the back of him. And the first incident, which was during FP3, I believe, where Hamilton was going pretty slowly through one of the chicanes while Mazepin was coming up on a hot lap, and Mercedes failed to tell him. So, yeah. Oh, I forgot about this corner. Lost. So Mercedes failed to tell him that, and Nikita Mazepin almost went to the back of him. Great driving by Mazepin to avoid that. Credit where credit's due. He did a good job there, and it's unfortunate that he ended up crashing out of the race in this particular race. So now we've got Perez out. Leclerc managed to carry on. It's just tyre damage. And we have Mazepin and Russell out along with Mick Schumacher. Okay, so now we've got another red flag. What happens now? Now, in my mind, what should have happened is that the FIA should have got on the phone to Christian Horner or to Jonathan Wheatley or whoever they talked to at Red Bull, and said to them, so Verstappen has done an illegal overtake, got into the lead illegally. He's going to give that place back to Hamilton, and therefore he will go into third place, and that's it. That's the end of it. What happened instead was some sort of weird negotiation where Michael Massey, I think it was Michael Massey, was talking to, and in this case I think it was Jonathan Wheatley, going, so yeah, we're looking at putting Verstappen into second behind Hamilton. Is that okay? And I'm thinking, what do you mean, is that okay? You're the boss. Tell them your driver messed up. This is your punishment. End of. Of course, it wasn't supposed to be second because everyone forgot about poor Esteban Ocon, who was in second place. So I think Alpine probably got a little bit worried, going, wait. Does that mean we have to go back to third, or what? What happens to us? Or are you just disqualifying us? Obviously, that got corrected, where it ended up where Ocon will start on pole, Verstappen would be third behind Hamilton in second. Which is, I think that was a fair way of doing it. But the way in which the FIA went about getting it done was so strange. If I was the FIA, all I would have said is that, right, your driver's messed up. That's clear. Your driver's messed up. This is where he's starting. End of discussion. There's nothing to be discussed here. That is your punishment. Job done. End of story. Just move on. But they didn't. They were having this discussion, which was so strange, because it sounded like they were asking for permission. Like, is it okay for us to do this? That's not how stewarding works. You see something, you make your determination, and if you deem that it's in breach of the rules, you apply the punishment fairly and consistently. So that was the third controversial incident from the FIA in one race. The first being the red flags taking way too long. The second being not Valtteri Bottas not being penalised, and the third being this incident here, where it was an easy punishment for Verstappen. He should have been demoted down to third. No questions, no discussion, nothing like that needing to be asked. Anyway, so that's 3 controversial incidents already for the FIA. Move on to the restarts. This time it's Max Verstappen that gets the fantastic restart. He finds a gap, a Red Bull sized gap, just about, and squeezes his car through, takes the lead. Job done. Ocon's in second, Verstappen's in first, Hamilton's in third, and Verstappen bolts as fast as he can, trying to get away, knowing that he's going to have to that's my mistake. Knowing that he's going to have to make some sort of, I don't like this. I don't like these. Whatever it is on the outside that they've got here. Whatever it is they've got on the outside is pretty rubbish. So off he goes, and he's trying to scamper away on medium tyres. Don't know why Red Bull put him on medium tyres, but there we go. Hamilton does manage to dispatch of Ocon fairly quickly, so which I think everyone thought was going to happen. I mean, it is a Mercedes, it's a blisteringly fast car. In fact, the fastest car I think of the weekend, and certainly I think it has been the fastest car at many points this season, despite what some of the performance figures say. I actually think that overall that Mercedes has still been the fastest package, not at every single race, but at most races. Anyway, that aside, Hamilton goes scampering off after Verstappen, as you would expect. Fast driver in the fastest car catches up to Verstappen. Here comes more controversial incidents. Now, in Brazil, we've got to go a race back. Go back to Brazil. Verstappen made a move that I would deem as a little over the line once we found out all the additional information. So the additional information we're talking about is his steering trace, where it looked like he did open up his steering wheel to... he opened up his steering wheel to push Hamilton off. That's not allowed, clearly. So that should have been a penalty, I think. However, in this one, Hamilton's caught up. He goes for the overtake. Hamilton goes for the overtake. Verstappen defends, brakes late, as you are entitled to do so, and then ends up running out of road because his car slips. So his car slips, he has to correct, so he's counter-steering, and obviously that ends up pushing Hamilton off the track as well. So both of them are off circuit. That one is not quite as clear-cut as Brazil. Because in Brazil, he opened up the steering to force his car to drift towards the exit. In this one, he was counter-steering because his car was sliding. He was oversteering. So he had to catch his car. Okay. Up comes the FIA, who did nothing in Brazil, and says, you have to give that place back. Or Red Bull turned around and had a discussion with them. Again, it's all this sort of weird discussions going, right, we're going to give this place back. Fine. Verstappen's going to give the place back. I don't really care much about that. If that's something to give back, then that's something to give back, but then Brazil should have been the same. Inconsistencies of stewarding. But Verstappen's told, give the place back. Strategically. You're allowed to give the place back strategically. There's nothing in the rules that says you're not allowed to do that. What does strategically mean? Probably before a DRS zone, so you can keep on his tail and overtake him again in the next corner or something. Fine. So Verstappen slows down towards the end of the lap. In fact, let's go towards that position, because we'll be there in a moment, where Verstappen slows down. By the way, obviously I'm going to be a lot slower on this track than the that's horrible. Than the 2020 cars. I just do not have the grip to do that. I might have the speed, but not the grip. So, and nor do I have the skill. I've only done a few laps on this track. I just installed it before this video. So, here we go. So this is where Verstappen's coming along here. This is what he's doing. He's slowing down. Hamilton now comes up behind him. Verstappen's kind of stuck. Hits the brakes. He's like, lost, confused. What's going on? So, Hamilton now runs into the back of Max Verstappen. Hamilton doesn't know what's going on. Mercedes are livid. Red Bull are utterly confused. Verstappen is utterly confused. Okay, I was told to give the place back. Why is he not taking the place? Why is he instead run into the back of me? So then for about 3 laps, everyone's racing as normal. Now Verstappen's got clearly a damaged car at the back. There's damage on the back of the car. Hamilton's got away with it a little bit better. His front wing is damaged, but not too horribly. In fact, it really didn't hamper him in the race afterwards. But now there's all sorts of discussions happening again with the FIA. Mercedes come up on to Michael Masi and go, what was he doing? Are we allowed to pass him? To which Michael Masi turns around and says, yes, you are. He said, well, we didn't know that. We weren't told. Michael Masi then gets a little bit, I think he got a little bit annoyed and says, well, I told you this, Ron. This is Ron Meadows, I think the Mercedes sporting director or something. He said, I told you that you can go by. And then there's some sort of debate about when it was told and miscommunication and crossed wires and not understanding the communications. I'd like to just break this down into a couple of things. First point, FIA were again atrocious there. How did Mercedes not get told of this within the moment that it was being announced? Like, okay, hey look, Red Bull have said that they're going to give you way. So, just to be aware, when Verstappen slows down, overtake him. The second part that I'd like to call into question was Hamilton. And I know many people are not actually calling this into question, and I do not understand why people are not calling this one into question. Oh, that was close. Hamilton drove into the back of Max Verstappen. He's a 7-time world champion. You see a car slowing down in front of you. What do? If you're on the roads and you see a car slowing down in front of you, you're on the motorway. You're doing 70 miles per hour. A car slowing down in front of you. What do? do you get on the tail of that car that's now doing, let's say, half the speed it's supposed to, or you would expect? So if it was supposed to be doing 70 miles per hour, it's doing 40. Do you get on the tail of that car, or do you go and overtake it thinking, oh, that car could be having a problem, it could be breaking down, or the driver could be doing something else? It could be an idiot driver, but in this case, there were two things that could have been happening. One, Verstappen was letting Hamilton go, and two, Verstappen was breaking down. One or the other. He could have had an engine failure, and he was trying to coast. Now, why did he stay on the right side of the track instead of the left? I think I have a simple explanation for that one. Track layout. The way it's laid out, the corners would be blind. If you were going that slowly and you were on the other side of a blind corner, you really do not want to be there. And I think that's why, oh dear, that's wrong. That's why Max Verstappen stayed on near the racing line. But there was still plenty of room to go around the other side. Plenty of room. So I do not, to this point, understand what was going through Lewis Hamilton's mind when he ran into the back of Max Verstappen. Now then he's saying he brake checked him. Now it's found on the traces that Max Verstappen did touch the brakes. However, I cannot class that as a brake check, and the reason being is that a brake check occurs when you're going at an expected speed and then slam on the brakes. So for example, if I was here, it's flat, it's flat, it's flat. I hit the brakes here, that's normal. I'm braking, I'm going through my corner. Here we go, I'm going through the line, I'm doing 185. You're expecting me to be flat, and I do this. That's a brake check. That's a brake check right there. So I was going full speed, and I've just slammed on the brakes. I brake checked somebody because I was supposed to be going at maximum speed, and I've hit the brakes. Max Verstappen was not going at maximum speed. He was going already at about half the speed he was supposed to be going at. So what's happened here, I think, and this is my opinion here, I think Hamilton's come up to the back of him. He's a little confused, and there's nothing wrong with that. I can accept that he's confused, that why is Verstappen slowing down. But in normal circumstances, I would look at that and say, if I was a driver, somebody's slowing down in front of me, they're braking down. I've not had any other information, they're braking down. Alright, so I need to make sure, I need to get past them. Any moment now, we're probably going to have yellow flags, and I need to get past them safely and clearly. Yep. Okay. So, I would just go straight past Verstappen. Hamilton gets on his tail, and then Verstappen brakes, and then Hamilton runs into the back of him, and everything just goes, once again, gets even worse and even more controversial. So, what was Hamilton thinking? I don't know. And I just don't understand what was going on. So then the FIA and Mercedes are having a go at each other, and Red Bull are not happy. Red Bull are completely lost. I think, was it 2, 3 or 4 laps? I think it was maybe 2 or 3 laps had then passed, and Verstappen was still ahead. And then he got told, let Hamilton past. Well, I mean, he tried that. It didn't exactly go well, but fair enough. I'm going to let Hamilton past. Do it strategically, whatever it is. We're going to let him pass. Great. This should now go well. Everybody is now aware as to what's about to happen. Hamilton is going to pass Verstappen, and he's going to take the lead for the illegal overtake, or where Hamilton, what's the term again? Leaving the track and gaining an advantage, or pushing a competitor off track, or something like that, whatever the rule was on that. Okay, that's done. So then Verstappen lets Hamilton pass, and then immediately re-overtakes him. Now, personally, I think that was a bit cheeky from Verstappen. I'm fairly sure you're not allowed to do that. You have to have a certain time limit, or the car needs to be able to I don't know what exactly the rules are, but I know it has been done before, where you let someone pass them and you can go re-overtake them on the next corner. But I think Verstappen basically let him pass and then re-overtook him right there and then, which I'm fairly sure is not allowed. So the FIA weren't happy with that. I think at this point Verstappen was just fuming, and unfortunately that's wrong of Max Verstappen. You've got to keep a cool head in the cockpit, and I think that's something Verstappen needs to learn. He needs to learn to be calm. But yes, he was fuming for the reasons that we've already mentioned. Everything's just going completely pear-shaped at that point in time. So he then gets told, then this is where it gets even weirder. Then he gets a 5-second penalty. Now, what does he get the 5-second penalty for? He gets the 5-second... Oh, I've done it again, and I cannot recover. Once we're on this horrible surface, it's impossible to recover. It's not even gravel, it's just rubbish. He gets his 5-second penalty for the... I think he got the 5-second penalty for the incident where he pushed Hamilton off track and then stayed in the lead. That's what he got the penalty for. Except he'd let Hamilton past. So really, if he was going to be penalised, he should be getting the penalty for the immediate re-overtaking of Lewis Hamilton. And I suppose, oh dear, unsportsmanlike behaviour? Yeah, whoever the mod author is of this track, fix your runoff areas, please. It would really be helpful. Unsportsmanlike behaviour? Maybe? I think that is what he should have got the penalty for. But no, he got the penalty for the thing that he's already done. And now it gets even stranger. Because then, on the next lap, Verstappen, and by the way, this is before he's got the 5-second penalty. Yes, this happened before he got the 5-second penalty. On the next lap, Verstappen let him go again. So then Hamilton overtook him, and now Hamilton is playing a bit dirty because he pushes him right out of road when Verstappen is letting him pass, and I think that's not right either. So again, I think that was wrong from Lewis Hamilton. Michael Massey was really annoyed about that. I think he said it's borderline black and white for unsportsmanlike behaviour, and there's just been this whole farce now of nobody knows what's going on, nobody knows who's where and what position, and then Verstappen's engineer, I'm sorry, I cannot remember his name, I know it's Italian, I think, he comes up on the radio and said, oh, you didn't need to do that, Max. Basically, he didn't need to give the place back. Which, at that point, I was really confused. Why didn't you need to give the place back? What's going on now? Then he's got the 5-second penalty, so he's given the place back and got a 5-second penalty. Meaning that one or the other shouldn't have happened. Either he takes that place now back off Hamilton, or they take away the 5-second penalty. Now you see the problems that are occurring here. Stupid, ridiculous stewarding. Stupid decisions being made. Now, at this point, I think Verstappen's essentially been double whammied, because he's had to give the place back, and he's got a 5-second penalty for not giving that place back that he's just given back. Not exactly the smartest day for the FIA. Double penalising somebody. And then, of course, afterwards it all went to the stewards. Hamilton won in the end. He got the fastest lap. They're equal on points. It went to the stewards, and then it was determined that Verstappen did in fact brake check Lewis Hamilton, and he got an additional 10-second penalty for, I guess, causing a collision. To which I call I call that one out and going, well, wait a minute, why have you done that now? This whole mess started with you not communicating with Mercedes. Had you told Mercedes promptly what you were going to do, or indeed if you did communicate with Mercedes, if Mercedes did not tell their driver fast enough, because Mercedes were guilty of this earlier in the day before in FP3, they got fined for this. If they didn't tell their driver in time, how is that Max Verstappen's fault? He's completely confused. Someone's come up on your tail. What are you going to do? You're going to hit the brakes to try and get out of the way and say, right, well, I'm braking, I need to, I'm going to move out of the way. And as I said, I don't think it was a brake check. A brake check is where you're going at a speed that you're expected to go and slam on the brakes. He was going at about half the speed he was expected to go, and then hit the brakes. That's not brake checking. That's just confusion. That's utter confusion. And again, I have to call into question, what was Hamilton thinking? Just what was he thinking in that moment? That, right, I'm going to go on the back of Verstappen. Because what was he going to gain from it? There was nothing that he could gain from going behind Verstappen. All he had to do was go ahead of him and take the lead, as was determined by that corner. I just do not understand what was going on there. So overall, this weekend, this Formula 1 weekend, has been an absolute joke. It's been one of the worst races I've seen in Formula 1 history, at a track that it could be good. The track could be good, but it's dangerous, and for the modern F1 cars, it's not much of a challenge at all. A lot of corners are just flat. The driving standards of both Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen were questionable at times. I think both their driving standards were questionable at times, up to their own, holding them to their own values as well. So, Verstappen's a more aggressive driver, so you would expect a bit more aggression from him than you would from Hamilton. But where he went off track and he rightly got penalised and moved to third back behind Hamilton, that was wrong. He shouldn't have done that at all. That was just a stupid move. He didn't need to do that. Did he need to brake when what he got done for the brake checking? Did he need to hit the brakes? I don't know. I really don't know. At that point, you're so slow. You're wondering what's going on. Were they fighting for, as Anthony Davidson pointed out, were they both fighting for that DRS line? And if that's the case, then that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous if you were fighting to be the car behind at the DRS line, in which case both of them should be penalised. But I think that if Verstappen got penalised for brake checking, I think Hamilton should have been penalised for driving up behind a slow car. I think I just beached the car. Driving up behind a slow car like that in the middle of a race. I think that was stupid driving from Hamilton. Overall, do I think either of them should have been actually penalised in the end for that whole thing? No. I think the FIA should fire their entire stewarding team. And that's what I think should happen there, because that's what caused this mess in the first place. So that's where I think the blame lies with them, with that stewarding team. Because they're not able to see. Again, the moment you go off here, it doesn't slow your car down properly. I just think that it was just an absolute shambles. The entire race was a total and utter shambles. The race before as well, the feature race for Formula 2, they started it, there's a red flag. They then paused it for such a long time, it cut into the Formula 1 time. The parade was cancelled. Then the feature, the Formula 2 race was supposed to be 20 minutes plus 1 lap. They got a few laps in, there was another crash, they red flagged it, they said, okay, we're not running the race now. Then there was all sorts of opening ceremonies of stuff to the track. That was then cutting into Formula 1 time again, there was apparently this whole show up on the podium that nobody saw. Nobody had a clue what was going on. It was just, everything was a shambles at this track. The incidents was stupid. Mercedes and Red Bull were both just playing dirty. But I think both of them were playing dirty to an extent. Verstappen's overtake turn 1 was cheating. That was just flat out cheating. I don't know what he thought he could gain from that. When he blocked out Ocon. He blocked out Hamilton and got Ocon got in the way. I'm not sure what he thought he could gain from that. That was a slam dunk penalty. But the FIA couldn't even give him a slam dunk penalty. They had to discuss this. Is it okay if we give him a penalty? Do you want to accept the penalty? What do you mean, do you want to accept the penalty? He's broken the rules, give him the penalty. Hamilton going into the back of Verstappen, stupid. Mercedes not being able to communicate to Hamilton properly in FP3, ridiculous. Valtteri Bottas slowing down and nobody batting an eyelid whatsoever about his. That was cheating, and nobody batting an eyelid. Just, where's the consistency? What do we want from this? Do I care if Hamilton or Verstappen wins the championship? Yes, I do, but not because I like one or the other driver. I just don't want Hamilton to beat Michael Schumacher. That's it. In terms of championships, that's the only reason why I want Verstappen to win. Once that's done, if they, I tell you what, rob the points off both drivers and give it to Kimi Raikkonen. Give the championship to Kimi Raikkonen. I'll be happy. I think everybody would be happy if you give it to Kimi, apart from Kimi, because Kimi would probably be like, I wanted to retire, now I have to go through all these parties. Don't want to do that. But, you know, just like proper stewarding. All through this season, the stewarding has been rubbish. I think at Imola, the stewarding was a bit rubbish. At Silverstone, stewarding was rubbish. When Hamilton took out Verstappen. And yes, I hold by that Hamilton took out Verstappen. At Brazil, the stewarding was rubbish where Verstappen should have got a penalty probably. And then here the stewarding was rubbish where he did something nowhere near. It may have looked like Brazil from the outside, but when you look at the replays, it's not the same situation. And this time he gets a penalty for it. Just absolutely rubbish stewarding all around. And then there were other incidents as well through the year. And there were, there were other incidents in this race as well where the debris, the virtual safety cars and the debris, my word, there was debris all over the track at one point, and they were just racing. And I'm thinking, there's a bit of front wing, there's a bit of front wing, there's a bit of front wing, there's a bit of side pod, there's a bit of someone's barge board. Why is this not a safety car? And then they throw virtual safety cars. What did we have? 3 virtual safety cars, 2 actual safety cars, and 2 red flags? Something like that? I don't know. I really don't know. It was just an absolute, utter mess. And the FIA really need to be. They should be ashamed of themselves. They really should be ashamed of themselves overall. Next week, in the next few days, we've obviously got Abu Dhabi. What's going to happen there? Do I think Verstappen's going to win the championship? I actually think Verstappen can win the championship. Oh, obviously, both Verstappen or Hamilton can win it. I think Verstappen is a very, very fast racer. Sometimes he lets his aggression get the better of him, and he really needs to learn that. But he's a very fast racer, and I think that if Red Bull just give him the tools on Sunday, on Saturday as well, I think Verstappen can win the championship. And as I said, because I do not want Hamilton to win another championship, I would like Verstappen to win, but I'm not really a Verstappen fan. Couldn't really care less. I'd much rather Perez win actually the championship, or I would have liked Bottas to win the championship. That would have been nice. And next season, I'm hoping the Alpine's really quick, because I'd like Alonso to be fighting for a championship, and I'd also like Ricciardo and Norris to be fighting for a championship. Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, I'd like them all to be fighting for championships. I think that would be really, really lovely to see. And George Russell next year in the Mercedes. I still want the Mercedes quit next year, because I want George Russell to be fighting for a championship. So that's my thoughts there. I don't know what's going to happen in Abu Dhabi, honestly. What we can guarantee is that we are going to see some fireworks, because they put fireworks at the end of the show, don't they? So we are going to see some fireworks. Whether those fireworks are going to be at the end or on track, I have no idea. Everyone can make up their own mind. You might be Team Lewis or Team Max or whatever people call themselves. I'll be honest, I really don't care. I just see these things like that. That's how I saw it. I think that the FIA were appalling this weekend. I think that Max's driving was questionable at points this weekend. I think Lewis Hamilton's driving was questionable at points this weekend. So I don't see one or the other being any better this weekend. And certainly the stewarding and the consistency of that was an absolute farce. As Fernando Alonso would say, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. So, with that, I think I'm going to end this video. That's been about an hour of me talking about this, just trying to gather my thoughts and just put everything out there. It was a long race. It was a really long race, and it was just ridiculous that it all went through that sort of mess. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe to the channel for more videos on Assetto Corsa, leave a comment in the comments box below. I'd like to hear people's takes, and try to keep it civil. Whether you're a Hamilton fan, a Verstappen fan, or a neutral, just try to keep it civil, please. As I said, my opinions are my own. I'm going to stick with them. I think that I've been fair to both drivers personally. I think I've definitely been fair to both drivers in this instant. But you know, if you disagree with me, feel free to tell me. Just be civil about it, because otherwise I will just block your comments. I'm not here to, because I know things like this sometimes pick up horrible debates and people start having a go at each other, and I'm not having that in my comment sections. Just pre-warning you guys. But yes, please feel free to leave comments and your thoughts. If you can do so, please do consider supporting me on Patreon. Link in the description box below. That's www.patreon.com/ECGadget. Your support would be massively appreciated. It would really, really help me out. And also, you can find me on social media at ECGadget LP for both Twitter and Instagram. That is all from me, and it looks like I'm sitting around the 134s for this. It's not too bad overall, but I've messed up there. Yeah, it's this whatever this dirt is, it's not working. That's all from me, and I will see you next time in Assetto Corsa, where I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. Something. I'll probably be doing something.